Hey everybody, welcome to Storytime with Frank. Got another story for you today. And this one happens to, I don't know, it's kind of dangerous, I guess. When I think back on what some of the stupid things I did when I was younger, some of the risks I took weren't too smart. It's things I would never do again and I would never suggest anybody to do. So take this story as it is. Don't take it as a playbook on stupid things for you to do. So needless to say, don't try what I'm about to tell you at all, ever. It's dangerous. Well, part of it was dangerous. So I had a friend of mine when I had moved, I guess I had moved out and moved back with my parents. A friend of mine needed a place, so he slept on our couch for a couple of weeks, and then he ended up staying with another friend, and so he just happened to have his brother's truck. And so we were like, well, let's go eat at Denny's or do something. You know, we were kind of bored. And he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, we go outside, and of course, it had iced over. We had been inside most of the day, so we didn't really realize. We knew it was snowing, but we didn't know how bad. So he's like, oh, I got this great idea. Do you have some old shoes? And I was like, yeah. He's like, go put them on. I was like, okay. So I went and put them on. He goes, okay, I'm going to get in the truck and you're going to hold on to the back of the truck. And I was like, what? He goes, it's called skitching. And I was like, that sounds safe. And he was like, just do it. And I was like, okay. So we were in our neighborhood and the street wasn't really that wide. So it was dangerous to begin with because there was cars parked out on the street. But we did it through the neighborhood and we came back around, and then I drove. And he held on, and we went one time around. And then he was like, well, let's go to Denny's. And I was like, well, let me sketch all the way out to the highway, and we'll go to Denny's. And he was like, okay. And the Denny's was just south of Six Flags. So if you know anything about Arlington, Texas, it's the one just north of Division. I guess you have to exit, is that Random Mill, I think is what that is, and come back around. So we get out through my neighborhood out to the highway, to 360, and he goes out the window and says, just go up 360 a little bit, and then I'm going to stop at this gas station and you can hop in. And I was like, okay. Well, we get up to the gas station and I was like, dude, this is so much fun, I love this. And he was like, you should do it all the way to Denny's, all the way into the parking lot so people can see you. He said it'd be really funny. And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna have to do it on the highway. And he was like, there's nobody on the highway but truckers. And literally there was nobody on the highway. We hadn't even gotten on yet. We could tell there was nobody on there. So I was like, man, this is really dangerous. And so he's like, oh, just do it. And I was like, okay. So I held on to the back of the truck, and he basically pulled me all the way up to that Denny's into the parking lot. And I was like, when I got there, of course, I was like hooting and hollering and having a good time. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know how stupid that was? And he was like, yeah, that was pretty stupid. It's like, I could have been killed. You know, he could have wrecked the truck and pulled me off the road or whipped me off the road, or a semi could have come up on us and he lost control and I could have went under a semi. I could have flown off a bridge. Anything could happen. And I was like, that was so stupid. And so on the way back, I was like, well, let's just go back. And he goes, well, we'll sketch when you get to the neighborhood. And I said, well, you can do it. I'm done doing it for the night. And he was like, well, then pull me home. So even though him and I had talked about how stupid this was, he held on to the back of the truck, and I pulled him all the way back to the house down the highway. So I'm sure neither one of us had a brain cell to share at that point if we're going to do something stupid like that. And we knowingly talked about how stupid it was, and we did it anyway. And so as long as he had his brother's truck, the next day it was still icy. And you know, Dallas-Fort Worth, it doesn't ice over very much. When it does, it's usually pretty bad. And for those that know about Arlington, Texas, there's a street called Brown Boulevard. And when you come off of Collins, it's a 14% grade. So it goes over and basically down. It's really steep. And luckily when I was a kid, we had moved into a house and somebody had left their sled. And so I have an old school, like, it's probably a little over 4 foot long wood and metal sled. It's It's all metal, and then the actual steering component's wood, and then the base where you sit is wood, and the rest of it's metal. And so what we normally would do was heat up a candle and run it on those skids, and so it's basically just wax on top of ice. So it's super quick. So we get into the McDonald's parking lot where basically everybody parked. You couldn't get any further closer to the road. The cops had the road shut off, and they were letting people sled down it. And this may have been one of the last years that they let us. So we just walked down there, and we left the sled in the truck. I put it in the truck, and we locked it up. We walked down there, and we were watching everybody. There were people on water skis. There were people with a couch with skis attached to it. I'm not kidding. A couch that they had screwed old snow skis to, and I guess they drilled through the fiberglass and then stuck a screw up to there, and they were riding down on that. I saw kiddie pools. McDonald's had, I guess, a bunch of old trays that they had put in a shed behind the place. They're out behind the dumpster, and the manager actually went and got them and said, use these will go really fast on the hill. And he handed them out, and everybody was freaking out. I thought people were stealing them from in the restaurant, and the manager was actually like, are you here for a sled? And they were like, yeah. And he was just handing these things out to people. They were old and cracked, but everybody enjoyed it. So I told my friend, I said, I don't know about bringing this sled out. I don't want to lose this thing, and I don't want this to become some big ordeal. He goes, no, you should go get it. He said, I think it would be fun. And he said, you got to go down head first if you go, though. And that's the thing, I had to have that sled since I was little. Actually nearly lost it one time because I left it behind my dad's car. He backed over it. I think that thing was a 78 Nova, and it lifted the car up. That's how strong this thing is. And of course, he got really mad, and I think they had to jack the car up, bust the ice out from underneath the car, and jack it up and pull my sled out. He was not happy. But luckily, I got to keep my sled. So I go back in the truck, and I go grab the sled, and I go stand at the top of this hill, and I got my hands on the sled like this, and it was the craziest thing in the world. There was people going down, and all of a sudden, everything just split. And there were people on either side, and nobody was sledding, and everybody was staring at me. My friend was like, you might want to go. And I was like, oh wow. So there's people with cameras out and video cameras out, and everybody just kind of parted the ways. And so I got on the sled, and I went head first, and I had my friend grab my feet, and there's another guy. I was like, hey, I'll grab the other foot. What I did is push me forward, back, and then pushed me. And I went down this hill, and I got going so fast. If you ever have a lot of wind in your face, if you ride a motorcycle, you know if you don't have eye protection on, your eyes are going to water. That wind's going to hit your eyes, and your eyes are going to automatically water. So here I am in freezing temperatures, no helmet, I just have glasses on, and the wind's getting inside my glasses this way and this way. And I literally, when I stood up, I had ice keeping my eyelids open like this, so I couldn't hardly see anything. And I had to like rub my eyes and warm them up, and water was just pouring out of my eyes. But it was crazy fast. It was so much fun. So I get to the back. I get up when I'm done, and everybody up top's clapping and yelling, and everybody's like, oh, I want to turn. So I told everybody, I said, my friend's going next, and then we'll see how it goes. So my friend went next, and he was like, oh my God, that's so much fun. He's like, I didn't know you didn't he said, if I'd have known you had this, we would have been over here last night instead of pulling each other up and down the highway. So this kid comes up and was like, I've never been on a sled in my life. I've always lived in Texas, and I'd actually got this sled when I was little, when we lived in Oklahoma is where I got the sled. He goes, I really want to go down the sled. And I was like, do you got an ID? And he was like, yeah. I said, I'm holding your ID. I said, because if you don't come back with my sled, we're going to have a problem. And he was like, oh, okay. So I let him go down, and then everybody else wanted to go. Well, people started offering me cash to go down, and I was like, okay, but I need your ID. Cash ain't going to cut it. I was like, you can give me money to ride it, but I want an ID. And we must have sat out there for 2 hours and let people ride that thing. And occasionally me and my friend got to ride. But it was a lot of fun, and a lot of fun to go experience something like that with total strangers. It was one of those fun things that just kind of happened naturally. So anyway, that's my my sketching and sledding story. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, on the left you'll see your subscriptions, and then when I post a new video, it should indicate how many videos I've uploaded to this channel. And make sure you check out my other channels that are in the description. And thank you for watching.